everyone, Steven here, autistic YouTuber, and welcome to Toastamac. In recent years, I've heard more and more about a certain term known as autistic-coded, where a fictional character in a given media displays traits and behaviors that can often be found in autistic people. Mind you, this character coding doesn't have to be about autism alone. It's been used to cover race, gender, sexuality, and even other disabilities. But come on, this is just all speculations, right? There can't be anything too substantial to this. Or is there? Here is how character coding works in general. The writer of a story gives a character traits and personalities that can often be associated with a specific group, all without explicitly labeling them. This serves as a starting point towards giving this character a human identity, even if the character in question is not supposed to be a human, resulting in making them relatable to those who enjoy the story. Assuming that you have seen a TV series or movie involving a school setting, which, let's admit it, a lot of us have seen this once or twice, you're probably familiar with certain character codings like the most popular girl in school getting all of the attention, the jockey that works out all of the muscles, except for the one up here, the loner that thinks that nobody understands them, been there, done that, and of course, the nerd that has all the answers to your questions. Character coding can be a very useful tool, from organizing characters into specific groups like good guys, bad guys, tough guys, nerds, kids, adults, etc., to even addressing real-life issues without the fear of censorship. But writers need to be careful. If you focus on character coding too much, to the point where you forget to give a character a soul and personality, then what happens is that the character gets lost behind a giant wall of stereotypes, making it difficult, if not impossible, to stand out. So writers, beware. When the audience looks at a certain character and goes, "Hey, I know someone like that," or, "This character reminds me a lot of me," that is when the audience can be invested in the story and the characters in the story, eager to see what happens next. Naturally, when you have a bigger audience with people from different walks of life, there's bound to be different perspectives on those characters, much like if we're looking at the same object but from different angles. What you see over there is not the same as what I see over here. And that is where Autistic-Coded comes into the mix. When people from the autistic community looks at certain characters and see that their behaviors are akin to other autistic people, if not themselves. Granted, it could have been done unintentionally because, again, it's a matter of perspectives. If you see a certain character as autistic-coded, odds are pretty good that the creator might have just intended them to be really smart, an introvert, or just socially awkward. It doesn't always have to be autism. Nevertheless, that's not to say that there's absolutely no merit to this whatsoever. Let's take a look at a few examples, shall we? For TV series, there is Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. The Addams Family, da-da-da-da. Ugh, I just can't with this guy. There have been many variations between TV series and movies, but the version that focuses more on Wednesday herself is the Netflix series known as Wednesday. Hey, at least you know what you're getting into. Wednesday is blunt with what she says, with barely any filtering. She rarely shows emotions, not never, just barely. She goes over a lot of details about her areas of interest and is not too fond of meeting new people, especially if they could be overbearing. All of this can sound like autistic traits,
but whether or not she is autistic is not our call to make. More on that later.
The next example comes from video games, and it's a character that you might not have thought about right away. Or at least I didn't. The ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog.
I beg your pardon? Mr. Edgelord? Mr. I rarely smile, only talk to people if I have to, and focus solely on the mission at hand? I thought that was because of the tragic event on the Space Colony Ark, which cost Shadow his home and his dear friend Maria. Isn't that why he acts the way he does?
Are you sure? If you saw Sonic X Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, God, that is a mouthful. You may find that Shadow acted very similar in the past as he does in the present. Honest, straightforward, and sometimes having a hard time expressing himself. So while I don't see an argument being made necessarily on whether or not Shadow is actually autistic, I do see an argument being made that the traits have always been there, even before the Ark disaster. Our last example comes from a recent anime series on Netflix, and this is my personal favorite example. From Delicious in Dungeon, we have Laios. Here is a man who is hyper-fixated on monsters and monster parts, to the point where he has elaborate and detailed notes in his notebook, and he gets very excited when he gets to cook meals and dishes involving said monster parts, despite the people around him not sharing the same enthusiasm. Unless your name is Senshi. Now, there is a certain scene in episode 17 where, hang on. Spoiler alert! In episode 17, that in my opinion, showcases Autistic-Coding in a different way. The confrontation between Laios and Shuro. Unfortunately, I can't play the official clip due to copyright reasons, so I'm going to have to do some fan dubbing. Please bear with me.
Laios, you know what? For the longest time, I haven't been able to stand being anywhere near you. And it's because you're incredibly careless, thick-headed, and awkward. And you never had ill intent, which made it more frustrating. I should just kill you right here and hand Marcel over to—
Why not say something sooner? What's the point in telling me now? If it was so hard to be around me, you should have told me back then so I knew. I tried to let you know in ways that most people would have picked up on. Maybe you should get better at reading the room, Laios. How, Shuro? I'd finally made my very first friend on the island. Did you expect me not to be excited about it?
Don't look at me like that! I hate it so much! That sincere look in your eyes while you shove your burdens onto everyone else!
How was I supposed to know that? You don't ever talk. Heck, you don't even eat. What's the point of you even having a mouth at all, Shuro?
This dialogue heavily states that Laios' social skills are not exactly up to par, which works as a great counterbalance towards his passion towards monster foods and monster parts, if we're going down the route of autism. Of course, this doesn't make him any less likable. Oh, fun fact, the English voice actor for Laios, Damien Haas, he's autistic. Go figure. These are some great examples of autistic-coded characters. However, there is a point I need to make clear. Just because you see a character as autistic-coded doesn't automatically make them autistic. There are two reasons why I say this. One, the mark of a great story is not one that just constantly gives the audience everything they want all the time. If a story panned out that way, would you even be invested? No. The mark of a great story is one that the creators themselves get to tell, and sometimes that means we don't always get what we want, and sometimes not everybody makes it to the end. If the audience doesn't get everything they want in a story, well, that's life. Reason number two. I've seen a few times on Reddit and Facebook where there are these debates and arguments on whether or not a character could actually be autistic. And for those on the nay side of the conversation, this might have something to do with the stereotypes and stigmas surrounding autism, that perhaps someone loves the character so much that they don't want to imagine them having a disability like autism. As I looked at these debates though, I couldn't help but shake the feeling that maybe some of the people involved in these debates are making a huge and rather unfortunate oversight. In my opinion, it doesn't really matter if a character is labeled as autistic or not. What matters is the representation itself and how it's done.
There is a right way and a wrong way of doing autism representation in the media. When an autism diagnosis is written so explicitly, so in your face, to the point where anyone with a working brain cell can see that someone has a disability, what happens is that the immersion of the story is destroyed. And we might no longer be able to relate to those characters, but instead be pushed further away.
That's why I hate Forrest Gump and Rain Man, and why I eventually stopped watching The Good Doctor. I wasn't looking at a person anymore, or even a character for that matter. Just a walking, talking mold.
So how can you create a proper representation without breaking the immersion? Easy! You remember to treat the character like a person, first and foremost. Recall that the general idea of coding a character is giving them traits and behaviors that can be associated with different human aspects for the purpose of giving someone a human identity without explicitly labeling them. The traits and behaviors are only ever meant to be building blocks for a character. You still need to put the personality and soul into them. There have been good examples of autistic-coded and even autism representation from video games such as Genshin Impact and Overwatch respectively, where they mention the particular traits a character has without making such a big deal out of it. They're not treated as someone super special to be put on a pedestal, but instead as people, just like everyone else. And in the end, isn't that what we in the autistic community are striving for?
This is what I believe to be the true beauty of Autistic-Coded. Notwithstanding the whole autistic or not autistic part, it's a subtle approach of introducing an audience to a concept that they may or may not be familiar with, in a way that treats them like intelligent people that can think for themselves. Imagine this as learning how to swim for the first time. Typically, you start off in the shallow end, get a good feel for it, and then decide if you want to go more towards the deep end of the pool. It's about letting the audience warm up to the idea of autism and let them decide for themselves if they want to learn more or not, all without just shoving it in their face and forcing them to accept it. This practice can be a great benefit for those outside and inside the autistic community. For those outside the autistic community, they can learn more about autism from different characters and different perspectives, seeing that it's not just one stereotypical mold, but rather a huge and broad community filled with diversity and different people from different walks of life. And for those inside the autistic community, they may find comfort knowing that they're not the only ones in the whole world that act the way they do. Seeing as how these traits often reflect real-life behaviors, they may feel more confident in themselves or even curious enough to get out there and see who else is like them. You know, now that I think about this sounds very similar to the steps of autism awareness, acceptance, and inclusion, don't you think? Well, who knows? I'm not the writer of your story. That's not up to me. That's up to you. I hope you enjoyed this video about autistic-coded characters, but of course, if you have any more questions about this topic, or maybe you know a character that could be seen as autistic-coded, tell us about it in the comments section below. With that, we have arrived at the end. Thank you for watching, everybody. Like and subscribe if you want to see more, and a special shout out to Help Autism Center for becoming a member of the Toastamac Chow Club. You can get shout outs like this too, along with other benefits, so consider becoming a member today. And don't forget, we also stream on the weekends, so if I'm live and you got the time, come hang with us. Until the next video or live stream, see you later.